YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. A bombshell of a report came out today. Not even really a report. Myles Garrett tweeted out that he has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. He wants to go elsewhere and continue his NFL playing career. The exact message that he put out on social media today said, quote unquote, as a kid dreaming of the NFL, all I focused on was the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, and that goal fuels me more today than ever. My love for the community of Northeast Ohio and the incredible fan base of the Cleveland Browns has made this one of the toughest decisions of my life. These past 8 years have shaped me into the man I am today. While I've loved calling this city my home, my desire to win and compete on the biggest stages won't allow me to be complacent. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It has always been to compete for and win a Super Bowl. With that in mind, I have requested to be traded from the Cleveland Browns. So again, this report came out earlier this morning, and obviously the immediate thought of many 49er reporters and fans was that the 49ers should pursue and at least entertain the idea of trading for this superstar reigning defensive player of the year player in Myles Garrett. I think when you look at the top most dominant players in the NFL, that's not a quarterback. I think the first names that come to mind are T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. And T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett for many years have went back and forth on, who is the more dominant defensive player and whatnot. And Myles Garrett seemingly has won more Defensive Player of the Year awards than T.J. Watt has, if I'm thinking right. Either way, Myles Garrett is a cornerstone franchise player, dominant player, has been since he's been in the league. And obviously, when you look at the 49ers, they've been trying to find a pass rusher to play opposite of Nick Bosa for several years, really since the departure of Dee Ford, who I loved on the 49ers. But obviously, injuries kind of belittled his career, and he's not even in the league anymore. But since then, the 49ers have been trying to find a pass rusher to play opposite of Nick Bosa. And Myles Garrett would be a phenomenal fit for the 49ers. Obviously, when you look at a potential trade, it's going to be trading for Myles Garrett will come at a hefty cost. And it could be a cost that the 49ers are not willing to pay. I think the biggest thing is he's got 2 years left on his deal, and salary cap hits of $19.7 million in 2025 and $20.4 million in 2026. He's also set to receive a roster bonus worth $5 million on March 16th, which is the 5th day of the new league year. So I mean, when you really look at the price, he's not that much, he's not very expensive over the next 2 seasons. Number one, it would obviously more than likely cost the 49ers multiple first-round picks, but the reward in return would be an immediate increase in production from the defensive line and really just from this defense in general. Obviously, the Browns, they've kind of made it known. Andrew Berry and the Cleveland Browns have made it known that they do not have any intention in trading Myles Garrett. Now, obviously, we've seen over the past couple seasons with 49er players requesting trades. It happened with Brandon Ayuk, it happened with Deebo Samuel, and they ended up kind of recouping things, and they ended up keeping those players. But when you look at a guy like Myles Garrett, Cleveland is probably going to be entering a rebuilding mode over the course of the next 3 years. Myles Garrett's 29 years old. He'll be 30 this year. He's getting older. the only thing he's got done with Cleveland is losing. Obviously he's been a dominant player for them, but other than winning Defensive Player of the Year awards and whatnot, he's only lost with the Cleveland Browns. He wants to win. He wants to be on a team that can contend for a Super Bowl, and you get that with the 49ers. This is a guy that has 4 first-team All-Pro seasons, 6 Pro Bowl nods over his 8 NFL campaigns. He's got 102 and a half career NFL quarterback sacks. He's got 200 quarterback hits and 116 tackles for loss. And the cherry on top is 20 forced fumbles. Clearly a premier pass rusher in the NFL and has been since he's entered the league. Obviously playing opposite of Nick Bosa, it has been a situation that the 49ers haven't really been able to solidify. They haven't been able to solidify a player that plays opposite of Bosa. Clearly in the NFL, you need good defensive lines. Building a good NFL team starts with building the trenches, finding players that can dominate on both offensive and defensive line. And obviously having Myles Garrett line up opposite of Nick Bosa would turn the 49ers pass rush into a quarterback's worst nightmare. And it would obviously help, turn the 49ers back into a dominant power on the defensive front that they have been known for. But here's the thing. The 49ers are probably unlikely to sacrifice multiple first-round picks for Myles Garrett, because the reality is that this team is becoming older. The 49ers need to draft younger players, but if it means trading this year's 11th overall pick and maybe a second and a third or 2/3, I think you have to do it. Obviously, I don't think it makes sense for the 49ers to trade multiple first-round picks, but if Cleveland will accept a deal that sends Myles Garrett to the 49ers for the 11th overall pick and a couple thirds or a second and a third, I think it's a no-brainer. Because obviously when you look at this upcoming draft, the 49ers are likely drafting an edge rusher. They're likely drafting a defensive lineman in general. I obviously wouldn't rule out them drafting an offensive lineman like Kelvin Banks Jr. or Will Campbell if he falls, but I think when it's all said and done, you get the best bang for your buck and the best value drafting on the defensive line at pick 11 than you do on the offensive side of the ball. I did make a video about that, by the way, which position the 49ers should target at pick 11. If you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you guys go and watch that video. But the reality is that they're likely going defensive line at pick 11. And when you give up the 11th overall pick and maybe a couple thirds or a second and a third, and again, I'm hypothetically speaking here. I don't think that's going to be Cleveland's asking price. But if it is, and you can get him on more of a, not a cheaper trade, but more of kind of like a, I don't see Myles Garrett going for like what the Bears gave up to get Khalil Mack in 2018, where he went for like 3 first-round picks. I think this is a situation where Cleveland's going to take like a first-round pick and then a couple seconds or a third. There probably will be a needy team out there to offer a couple first-round picks, and obviously Cleveland would then likely accept that deal. But if I'm the 49ers, I'm without a doubt offering the 11th overall pick and some, and maybe a player or two there for Myles Garrett, because again, you're likely going defensive line in the draft, and you can just trade that 11th overall pick and get arguably the best defensive player in football and arguably a top 3 player in all of football when he's healthy and playing. And what's funny is Diamador Lenoir's already kind of been recruiting Myles Garrett to the 49ers. He put out an Instagram picture that kind of hinted at him teaming up with Myles Garrett. He put a picture on his Instagram that said, let's get this ring, and then he tagged Myles Garrett, and then he also tweeted at Myles Garrett and said, what type of animal you want to be? We got hyenas, bears, lions, and gorillas. So Diamador Lenore is in full recruiting mode to try and lure Myles Garrett to want to come to the 49ers. I definitely think Myles Garrett would join the 49ers. I think he would absolutely love to come to San Francisco and compete for a Super Bowl. Jerry Rice even commented on the situation and said that it's a no-brainer that the 49ers should absolutely trade for Myles Garrett. So he went on 95-7 the game and said, man, that's a dog. That's a no-brainer. If you can get that dog, you go get him, because it's only going to add to that defense, and you win championships with defense. I don't care how potent your offense is and how many points you were putting up. You've got to be able to stop the opponent, and he would be a great part in doing that. So, I mean, obviously, I think, Jerry Rice thinks it's smart to do so. Diamador Lenore clearly wants this trade to happen. So, again, I would 100% be open to the idea of trading for Myles Garrett. I just don't think giving up multiple first-round picks for Myles Garrett. And not only that, but you got to think that Myles Garrett might want a new contract with whatever team signs him. And the 49ers have to pay Brock Purdy. They're going to pay Brock Purdy. You got to bring back Dre Greenlaw. Obviously, I think that would clearly mean that Hufanga's departure is probably more likely going to happen if they get a deal done with Myles Garrett. But look, they're carrying over $50+ million in cap space in 2025 in this next year. And here's the thing. I think when you look at the Myles Garrett contract, there's no guaranteed money left on that deal. So could the 49ers restructure that deal and give him more guaranteed money, kind of like how they did Trent Williams last year? Potentially. I think the biggest thing with Myles Garrett is, and him wanting a new deal, is the guaranteed money part. He wants to be guaranteed money. And I think the 49ers could definitely swing that with paying Brock Purdy and probably with keeping Dre Greenlaw. But again, I mean, it would be a perfect fit. I would 100% be open to getting Myles Garrett, because why the hell wouldn't you be? He's arguably the best defensive player in all of football. I mean, for God's sake, the guy's the reigning defensive player of the year. So, you're 100% open to the idea of doing that. And the 49ers are actually expected to pursue trading for Myles Garrett. So, I would not put it past John Lynch in at least doing his due diligence in inquiring about the possibility of trading for him. The 49ers have traded for big-time players before. I mean, they traded for Christian McCaffrey. And they got McCaffrey for much less than I thought they would have got McCaffrey for. So could this be a situation where the 49ers just give up pick 11 and, a couple seconds or a couple third-round picks in return for Myles Garrett? I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that the Browns would probably rather trade him to an NFC team than an AFC team. It's worth noting that the 49ers are a suitor. They will be interested in it. It's just about what the compensation will be in terms of trading for him. So again, this is going to be a situation to kind of, monitor and watch. If Myles Garrett gets traded to the 49ers, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. But I'll tell you this much. It's going to help Robert Saleh's defense. It's going to make them more exotic. It's going to be easier for Saleh to make this defense more exotic. The Niners will 100% be able to only rush 4 men on every down. It would definitely make this defense a force to be reckoned with. And again, I'm 100% open to the idea of doing this. Again, they also traded for Chase Young last year. Obviously, they didn't have to give up nearly as much as what they would have to give up trading for Myles Garrett. But this team has been known to be aggressive. The trade deadline, obviously it's one of those things that the 49ers have been able to. They have made trades before the trade deadline before. They've made big splash moves. They got Chase Young last year. You know, they traded for Christian McCaffrey. They traded for Emmanuel Sanders just a few years ago. I mean, obviously the biggest one splash move out of all of those is getting McCaffrey, but they've traded for superstar players before. So I definitely would not put it past John Lynch potentially making this trade. Again, it just comes down to what the compensation will be. And again, I mean, the problem is the Browns are standing firm on refusing to trade away their best player. He might be the best player in franchise history outside of Jim Brown. But again, we just seen Luka Doncic get traded to the Los Angeles Lakers over the weekend. And that's a player that 2 weeks ago, if you would have asked me the most untouchable players in the NBA, Luka Doncic is in that list. I've seen crazier things happen. So I definitely think when it's all said and done, Myles Garrett will probably be traded. Could it be to the 49ers? That's the biggest question. So you guys let me know in the comments down below. This is definitely a situation to monitor. I'll continue to keep you guys updated. Should the 49ers trade for Myles Garrett? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, go Niners, and I'll see you guys in the next one.